Tony Blevins. Many of you have asked me about guitar lessons, and it's about impractical to go to everybody's house or everybody come to me, time constraints and all that, so I thought I'd make a series of 3 of these very short guitar lessons to give the beginner, the intermediate, and the advanced some advantages or some things that I picked up in the 30 years I've been doing this. Essentially, we're going to call this first section for the beginners. These are people that either have only been playing for a little while or have never even picked it up. The best thing I can tell you on that one is to get an acoustic or an electric that has strings very close to the frets. Otherwise, if you get one of these cheap guitars that the strings are really high up off the frets, you're probably not going to stick with it because it's not going to sound like anything. So my suggestion, and they're kind of cheap now as opposed to 30 years ago, I would get one of these that, who cares what the name of it is, as long as the strings are close to the fretboard and as long as it sounds pretty good. First thing you'll also notice is I'm left-handed. Jimi Hendrix and Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath were left-handed. You can learn. I form the chords just the same way you do, it's just with a different hand. And I've watched all the right-handed people over the years do it, the Eddie Van Halens, the Randy Rhoads, and all that. So if I can do it, you can do it, because we form the chords the exact same way. So this is called an acoustic cutaway, and it's thin line. So this is one I'm going to kind of show you some of the stuff on. There are several different kind of guitars to get. I would suggest getting a cheap acoustic or a cheap electric to start with. That way you don't have much money invested if you don't want to do this. If you spend more than $200, you've spent probably too much to get started. Now, if you start doing this and you like it, then you can go buy the exotics. I think the Fender Stratocaster is $1,000, $1,500 now for an American made. You can get a cheap copy from Korea, I think, for about $400 or $500. If you get into the Les Paul Customs, the Gibsons and stuff, you're looking at $2,000 to $4,000. Might want to start off with something really cheap to start with. Alright, on the acoustics, like I said, make sure the strings are very close. If they're really high off, you will not continue doing this. I did it when I first started, then I quit for about 3 years, then I bought a little bit better one, and off I go. So, get the cheap guitar to start with the strings close to the fretboard. Next, this is extremely important. Get you a tuner. This is one of the better ones. This one is an electronic tuner. When you get it in tune, the lights go red, green, red. That tells you that you're in tune for that string. Or you can get one of these older. I've had this one for almost 30 years. This is an old analog tuner. They both still work. When you're first learning, you need to get a tuner because you're not going to have the ear to tune the thing. The easiest guitars to tune are the acoustics. The most difficult are by far the electrics with the floating tremolo. This one has no tremolo, so here we go on the basics. You have 6 strings on a regular guitar. The smallest string is at the bottom, the biggest string is at the top. You'll need to learn the names of all the strings. The top string is E, the next string is A, the next string is D, G, B, and then to confuse everything, the bottom string is also E. It's about either 1 or 2 octaves higher. I think it's 2 octaves higher than the other one. An octave is basically 12 notes higher than the previous note, which means that when we get into pitch and tone and all that stuff, this has to do with pitch. So an octave higher means that it vibrates twice as much as it did an octave lower. Tone is either treble or bass. Most people kind of fool with that on the electrics and stuff. You don't really get much of a chance for tone on acoustics unless if you play at the very bottom, you get kind of a twangy tone, or if you play above the hole there, it gets kind of a basic tone. And if you play right over it, which is what they suggest, you get what they call equal or a middle ground. So that's that. The first thing you want to know is this up here is called the nut. This down here is called the bridge. On acoustics, they are very easy to tune because it's just got a little piece of plastic that holds the strings up off with little plastic pegs that poke the kind of strings down in there and hold them in place. Then you're going to tune it. Like I said, get you one of these tuners that will tell you when you're in tune. When you put the string on, make sure that you pull on it a little bit like this, 3 or 4 or 5, 10 times. Don't pull so far that it will break, because it will snap and grab your finger if you do that. I remember back in the day. So pull on it. What you're trying to do is extend the string, get some of the stretch out of it. because they will stretch for the next few days. Make sure every day you go back and retune it by about the third or fourth day. You won't have to retune it anymore. So, now this part I cannot teach you. You can get these chords off the internet or you can go buy the chord book, but there is no way around learning the chords. The chords are very easy. Now let's start off with A. Well, let's start off with something else first. There are basically 12 notes in a chromatic scale. There are 7 what we call basic notes, and then there's 5 half notes in between those. I know it's confusing, you just got to learn them. So if we take the guitar and we start at the very top string, the very top string is in E. If you go up 1 fret, it's F. If you go up another fret, it's F sharp, or to make things even more confusing, G flat. So F sharp and G flat are the exact same note. Pick your choice on what you want to call it. If you go up to the 3rd fret, it's G, G sharp, A sharp, B. There is no B sharp. So it jumps from B to C, then C sharp, D, D sharp, back to E. Notice, if we count this as 0, exactly 12 frets higher at the 12th fret where the double pieces of inlay here are exactly 1 octave higher than the note down here. Now, you got to learn the major chords. In the book it will show you that A is formed like this. Do not do like that. That'll tie up all your fingers. Do it with the last knuckle on your index finger on your fretting hand. That's going to leave your other fingers free to do other stuff like so that's what I would suggest, learn with just the knuckle of your index finger. The A chord is very important because you'll learn how to form bar chords like that. Think of the nut as holding all these strings down, and if you put your finger right there, that forms an A chord. Now if you put your finger over all of the strings, now remember, if you're forming a chord, make sure that you form it holding your hands just behind the frets. Don't hold it on the frets, don't hold it past the frets, hold it behind the frets. That way the frets basically make a new stop for the string. If you do it on top, it's going to buzz on you. So make sure you form them right behind the frets like that. A is important because you're going to learn bar chords later. A bar chord is basically using your index finger like the nut, holding it all the way across the strings, and now using your ring finger to form like the knuckle you did for A right here. If you do it 1 fret higher than the nut, it becomes A sharp, B flat, up to the 2nd fret becomes B.